Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. It is Colorme Badland, back with a fun and interesting Q&A for Dear Colorme. I also want to come on and share an amazing fragrance that I stumbled upon a while back, and it's an absolutely extremely affordable fragrance that's in my collection that is similar to one of our higher end fragrances that I absolutely adore. And so I love using this fragrance around the house for a bedtime scent. It lasts long enough to wear as a work scent or an evening out. And I'm going to come on and share that with you today. But before we get into that, I want to welcome you back to my channel. It seems like it's been forever. So welcome back. I'm not familiar with what city you're actually in, but the city that I am in, we have been snowed in for days, and so we've just been bundling up and trying to eat as healthy of a snack as we possibly can so we can fit our work pants when we go back out, right? So anyway, on my channel, what we talk about is mainly fragrances that are in my collection, fragrances that are on my wish list. I have a lot of them on my wish list. I can't wait to unload them. We'll get into it at another time. We will also talk about natural skincare, a little bit of makeup. I will talk about weave, wigs, natural hair. We will talk about love, romance, dating. I think I have a dating question for this Q&A. We'll also talk about relationships, family issues, and faith. Lots and lots of faith, okay? We're also going to incorporate some Q&A questions about church hurt. I have gotten a lot of questions about that because I have shared my faith on several other videos, and I do have one question I think today that I'm going to come on and answer that is in reference to that, and hopefully it helps somebody. All right, so let's get into it. First, let's start with our fragrance. We'll do that first. The fragrance that I want to share with you guys is from the design house or clothing company called From Benetton. I don't know if you guys ever remember that, like the colors and all of those different fragrances back in the day. Well, this fragrance, I can't remember exactly what channel I was watching, but she shared this fragrance and stated that it was similar to one of Chanel's fragrances. And the fragrance that she mentioned, I absolutely love. I wouldn't say it's a duplicate for it, but it does have some similarities. And at the end of the video, I will share some of the fragrances that it reminds you of, just in case you're interested in adding a couple of inexpensive fragrances to your collection to keep you from spraying out on your high-end fragrances every single time you get ready to go out of the door. So this is the actual bottle here. It is called Hot. As you can see, a little bit of the juice is missing. I haven't had an opportunity to actually wear this out, but I've worn it around the house, testing it out, trying to see what I think about it. I've had it for a little while, so you can kind of see where the juice line is there, and how much I've actually used of it. I'll bring it in a little closer, and I'll share with you really briefly what notes are in this fragrance, and then we will get into our Q&As. I'm excited. I've been waiting to answer these questions for a very long time, and I thought, you know what, we're going to go ahead and start talking about these topics and issues because they are obviously, it is an issue within our community, within our church communities, and I believe that if someone sent me the question, that they wanted to get my opinion on it and what I thought about it and had I ever experienced anything similar to what they asked me about. So we are going to get into it, okay? So your main accords of this beautiful fragrance, again, this is Benetton, Hot Benetton for men and women. And I didn't know this was unisex. This is a woody, citrus, powdery, vanilla, white floral. It is balsamic. It is sweet. It's fruity. It has iris and it has amber in it. And I sprayed a little bit on me to kind of get the vibe for this fragrance because, like I said, I don't wear this fragrance. And so I wanted to kind of gain an idea for what it smells like on me so that I could give you a clear and concise review on this fragrance. So we'll come back to that. I did spray a little bit on my skin and it's kind of marinating because I always like to see how well fragrances last on me before I give my thoughts and views on them. Even if I haven't worn them outside, I do like to come on and share what I think about the fragrances. So let's get into our first question from Dear Color Me. All right, guys, so this is our part of Dear Color Me, our segment of Dear Color Me. And as I stated, I have been holding on to these questions since 2021. I just really haven't had the time to come on and answer all of these questions, and so I apologize to the questionnaires. These questionnaires ask that I not shout out their names, so I am not going to do that, and that is because I think one of the said questionnaires is still in contact with the people that she is speaking about or having had an issue with. And sometimes that can complicate things, especially when you're trying to figure out what to do, how you're going to go about it, and whether or not you're just going to let it be swept under the rug. But I'm going to come on and answer them to the best of my ability and share my experiences in these areas as well. So hopefully this will help. So let's get into it. Our first question that I want to answer, and they're in no particular order. Of course, I always rewrite my questions because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pinpoint certain things that I can remember if something ever happened to me in reference to this question to kind of help me to answer without kind of babbling on and on, because I'll get into it and keep talking. So the first question is, Dear Color Me, have you ever experienced disrespect out loud by someone you respected, or that you had some level of respect for? That is a really, really good question. I'm going to read that again. It is, Dear Color Me, have you ever experienced being disrespected out loud by someone you respected? My answer to that question, of course, is yes. It just depends on the particular situation, issue, and things of that nature. But yes, I have. And it was by the pastor's wife of a church that I belong to. I don't know what made her say this in my earshot, and I knew she was talking directly to me. I don't know what was in her heart or her feelings that I had done to her, because I've done nothing to her. I never said anything about her, never gossiped about her or anything of that nature, her family, anyone. And we exchanged words with each other in a good way. And the conversation was over. It was really brief and very short because this person never even took the time to ever, get to know me, ever pull me to the side and say, hey, I want to just talk with you, see how things are going. I've heard this, that, and the other, and I want to talk with you and find out what's going on with you. So for her to say what she said to me or about me kind of bothered me a little bit. So yes, I have been disrespected before. She called me a hoe. That's not the first time from what I've heard, and I normally don't go by gossip because I'm not a gossiper. I don't like gossip, and I don't hang around, and I don't click with gossipers, people who like to gossip, talk about other people, spread rumors, talk about things that they've heard, belittle people, badmouth people. That's just not my thing. Never has been. I don't care to do it, and I don't care to be around people who like to do it or encourage those types of behaviors. That is not of God in any way, shape, or form. So yes, that has happened to me before. It did bother me a bit because out of all the people that would say something to me in that way, I would never think that it would have come from that particular person. No, I did not share it with anybody else. It was brought to my attention that a lot more had been said about me from that particular person. And it didn't bother me because after I heard her say that to me, it didn't surprise me. And that's the reason why I don't put anything past anybody. But for people who are easily offended and easily hurt, that can turn them away from even wanting to ever step foot in a church. And that's what I was talking about on another video about the behaviors of people who are supposedly in hierarchy positions, supposedly, that have behaviors that are worldly. That's the first time I'd ever been called that. And, in my proximity close to me where I knew that person was talking about me, people may have said it behind my back, but that's on them. But yes, that's the first time that had ever happened to me. And then for it to happen from someone that I thought was classy, dignified, and esteemed, that's the part that I didn't understand. And the other thing that I didn't understand is that my behavior never exhibited that type of label to be placed on me. So I did not appreciate that. When I entered that place, I was a married woman. When I left, I was married, even though we weren't together in the household. And there was no one in that church that I had my eye on. I never flirted with anybody. There was no one to flirt with. Okay. And so for her to say that about me was very unjust. It was very unfriendly. I never shared that information with anybody, because a lot of times when people throw darts at you like that, they're really talking about themselves. It did bother me, like I stated again, because it came from someone that I thought was better than that. Especially when I had done nothing to her or anyone there to receive that type of a comment shot toward me. And so, yes, I've experienced it. It depends on where it's coming from. Like I said, I've heard other things that person has said in my character, and it really doesn't bother me when people do that, especially when it's coming from someone who's never ever gotten to know you. They really don't know anything about you much except for what they've heard from other people. So that just a lot of times shows you what type of a person they are. And oftentimes it's best that you stay on your level, stay in your lane, and ignore that, because God deals with us all on our character and our behavior. And so sometimes you just have to brush things off if you know that it doesn't apply to you, and keep it pushing. Good question. All right. Next question. The next question is kind of tied into this one almost. It's Dear Colorme, have you ever had thoughts of never going back to church? She says, and it is a female, she says, the reason I ask is because I've experienced many church hurts, things that have happened to her in the church that could turn her away from wanting to go to that particular organization or what have you. She said that I brushed off. I knew that I was on assignment, but how do you find the strength to walk away? Well, that's something that you have to work out with God. If you are serving on any auxiliaries, if you've dedicated yourself to serving in some capacity, sometimes you have to work through that hurt. Sometimes you have to work through the disappointments, the setbacks, the misunderstandings. It's just like anything else in life. You know, if somebody does something to you at work, 9 times out of 10, because you need that money to pay those bills, you're going to keep coming back over and over again. And a lot of times people know that, and that is why sometimes they direct their horrible behavior toward you, is because they know that you need whatever you're getting from that particular place. Sometimes it's to get rid of you. Sometimes it's to, keep you, stunt your growth. There are many, many reasons behind why people do and say what they do and say. But when you get a release from God, you'll know it. You know, if someone walks you to the door of the church house and shows you the parking lot, that is their way of telling you that you're no longer welcome here. Period. So you have to have that understanding. You have to be intelligent enough to know what people are saying without saying it. And keep your ear to the streets, because when you keep your ear to the streets, you'll get the feedback that you're needed to know to say, okay, look, I'm praying for a release. It's time for me to move on. And then you need to pray for someone else, somewhere else to serve and dwell, because you don't want to be, out here not using your gifts and your talents just because of something someone said or did, or how you're being treated. So I will go to God about that first, because sometimes your feelings get hurt and it wasn't intended to happen that way. You got to look at the entire situation, and also find out what you're doing to cause those things as well, because sometimes we're involved in groups and cliques and friendships that can cause those negative connotations to come upon you as well. If that's not the case, like I said, pray about it, and God will give you a place to go. He'll give you a church to worship in if that's what you're looking for. He will give you somewhere that fits you, that fits your family mode. He'll give you somewhere where you can serve. And so that's my recommendation for you, is just to pray about it. And there are so many places that you can go to serve and worship, even if you have to take a back seat from whatever you've been doing and just sit and listen. Sometimes you have to go sit, listen, and heal from whatever you've been through without going forth in servitude, because oftentimes people just jump into things, serving people, and they're hurt. And when you hurt others. And so you may have to sit down for a while and take a break and get filled all the way up again and be restored before you go forth in ministry again once you move and transition into another church. Excellent question. All right. And the last question, I had another one that I wanted to share with you guys because I've got so many of them and I want to go through them and answer them. It was pertaining to, and I want to read it verbatim because I don't want to just go off of my memory. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. So this particular question just asks real simple. Dear Colorme, what is the worst date that you've ever been on? So we're gonna take it up a little notch and make it a little light now. Okay, so on a video, when I first started recording and uploading videos on YouTube, I shared with you guys some of my best dates that I had ever been on. And I have a couple that were really bad. Not a lot, just a couple. One of them, I was invited to a party and it was inside of what you call a trap house. Yeah. So, and the person didn't tell me, they didn't warn me, they didn't explain anything to me. But yeah, I was invited to a party at a trap house and they didn't tell me that. I think that's what it was. It was, one of those types of deals. So that was a horrible date for me. It was not good. I didn't appreciate that because I think that a lot of times when you invite people places, you should try to give them a little bit of information and fill them in on what the situation is going to be, or at least the environment, so that then you can make your decision on whether or not you still want to hang out or if you're going to stop in and leave, things of that nature. So yeah, that was one of the worst dates that I've ever been on. It was horrible to me. Okay, then the second one that I want to share with you guys, and I'm not going to go into detail about this. I do want to share that the food was amazing. The food was great. I went on a date, and at the end of the date, we drove in separate cars. Of course, Colorme is not hopping in the car with nobody she don't know. She know we meeting up. I'm not doing that. And so anyway, we part ways. We say goodbye or whatever. The said gentleman did walk me to my car and make sure I was in my car. My door was closed and all that good stuff. But once he got into his car, he sped off the parking lot, and we were on a parking lot of a restaurant where there was no one else on the parking lot because it was getting late in the evening. And we were the only ones that were left there at the restaurant. It was one of those places where the weather was nice. You could sit outside and chit chat a little bit or whatever. But everybody vacated except for, I guess, the people who worked there. But there was nobody on the parking lot. So before I could start my car and get off the lot, or at least get to the end of the lot so I could see which way to go, he sped off the parking lot. He didn't check to make sure that I knew which way I was going. And I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't my neck of the woods. And so I did have to figure out which way to get back home because I wasn't particularly familiar with the location that we were at. He didn't wait to make sure that I got off onto the main street or anything. He just left and sped off. I thought that was extremely rude. I thought it was totally ungentlemanlike. Because we were the only people on that parking lot, he should have waited until I got off onto the main road safely. He could have just rode in behind me until I kind of knew where I was going. I don't know if he was nervous or what was going on. But a gentleman is a gentleman always, no matter whether they're a little bit nervous, anxious, excited, whatever. And that really, really troubled me because I have never experienced that before. It stunned me because I'm like, did he just pull off this parking lot going 50 miles an hour? And when I got to the end of the parking lot, I kind of sat there to look to see if he was there waiting for me to make sure that I got off safely and that I was, going in the right direction. No cars, no one, nowhere to be found. Quiet. was the mouse. Okay. And so those two really left a bad taste in my mouth, those two dates. And I won't go into detail about them, but yes, those are the two that I can remember that were horrible. I'm sorry. They were horrible. So fellas, step your game up. All right. Well, that ends this portion of Dear Color Me. I want to thank all of our questionnaires, the people who send the questions out to me. I really appreciate the fact that you trust an absolute stranger to come on and answer questions for you, or to just share some things that I've experienced that may be similar to yours, and hopefully it'll help you to make a strong decision in your life situation. So hopefully that will help. Let's get back to our fragrance. I just want to share with you guys the notes of this fragrance. Hopefully it'll tell us like when it was made and all that good stuff, just to give you an idea. Again, our fragrance for today is Hot by Benetton. It's called Benetton Hot. It is a amber fragrance. It is so pretty. It says it's for men and women. It was launched in 1997. I'm going to share with you guys. It has a very striking scent when you first spray this fragrance out. So you have to give this fragrance at least 10 to 15 minutes to settle down before you decide whether or not you like this, because once it dries down, it is so nice. Your top notes of this particular fragrance, I believe, is Brazilian nut, if I'm not mistaken. It is rosewood in it. It has mandarin orange. It has lemon in it, so it's a little zesty, and bergamot, so it has a little bit of lemon and lime in it. Your middle notes are what I love to call your heart notes, are apricot. They have iris, water jasmine, lily of the valley, which I absolutely love, lily of the valley. Your base notes are vanilla, sandalwood, amber, a lot of amber. It is has a musk note in it, oak moss, and cedar. So it's really ambery. It's very woody. It's lightly citrused. I don't like a fragrance that's overly citrus unless that is the fragrance that we're dealing with. If we're dealing with a straight lemon or a lime scent, then I love those, especially if it's sweetened, like a sugary lemon or lime. Love those. So it gets its smoothness from the vanilla. I'm assuming that the lily of the valley, the jasmine, the oak, and the oak moss, and the musk is what gives this fragrance its powdery dry down. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love this fragrance. It is not something that I would recommend, like I said, wearing to work. It's a little bit loud. Your first spray out may kind of be a little bit off-putting. It is loud. But once it dries down, it smooths down into a really nice, soft, white floral, heavily ambered fragrance with a touch of vanilla. So it has a slight sweetiness to it. So you know what I always say, when I have a fragrance in my collection that I recommend you adding, get you some. That's all I have for now. I want to again thank everybody who sends questions out to Dear Color Me. There are some people that just send me encouraging messages, and I really appreciate you guys. I love the fact that you guys are starting to comment on my videos. I love it. I love the interaction. It is amazing. I appreciate it. It helps me to get more enthusiastic about what I'm doing here on this channel. More to come. I also want to thank all of my subscribers and all of my viewers. Go ahead and click that like button and make sure you subscribe to my channel. This is Color Me Badland saying thank you for watching. God bless you guys. Peace.